Hello and welcome to the Regis Capstone video reflection. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Roland Mercier, and this is where I get to do all my work. I am happily married with a beautiful daughter and a wonderful son. I've been working for Denver Public Schools for 7 years. I started as a PE teacher. I've also worked as a dance teacher. Now, the thing is, I've always tried to find new ways to be creative in my approach to teaching, by including technology and by trying to always find new sources to inspire the students to try new things that normally they're not exposed to. Now, for as long as I can remember, I've always loved technology, how it works, or even how it doesn't work. And in physical education, technology is usually frowned upon because it's more sedentary activity. My initial goal was to return to school at Regis University to get my master's in instructional technology to enhance students' learning by incorporating more technology and blending it seamlessly within physical education and dance. However, now that I can reflect back over the last couple of years of my time at Regis and instructional technology, I realize I've grown in many more ways than just by adding technology to a program. I've grown as an educator, as a person, and as a co-worker. Here are some of the reasons why I believe this has happened. In my first class, Pedagogical Practice in Instructional Technology, I was reintroduced to the online learning. Now, online learning was a little different than I was used to. I was used to going to a classroom, meeting up with friends, talking about what we were doing. But it was a learning curve, and I really started to embrace this after the time. Now, in this class, I was also introduced to the TPAC, the UDL, and even the digital divide. Now, all these had a big impact on me, but one artifact in this class was a profound impact on me. We were tasked to teach the others about constructivism in our class. Now, our professor asked us to think outside the box, but to use the TPAC framework as our guideline to create our own little lesson. This is when I was introduced to 3D modeling. I decided to use 3D modeling with a collaborative project with my peer, Dan Sharp, to create an entirely new way of thinking for me. I was able to use 3D modeling to teach and share my ideas and concepts with the peers in my class. The artifact really pushed my technology skills at the time, and I was very pleased with the outcome. I love how it used the entire TPAC, the technology, the content knowledge, and pedagogy, all around constructivism. Now, the research that I did for this class was really based around the UDL. The most proud I am about everything I did was around the universal design for learning. Now, this really shaped how I thought about teaching technology throughout all content knowledge from here on out. Now, the next class I was lucky enough to take was Integrating Technology into the Curriculum. Entering this class, I thought I was doing exactly that, integrating technology into the curriculum. But I was surprised with what I learned from this course. I was able to develop a flipped classroom model for one of my classrooms in physical education, and also I took a research project as a webinar. And this is the first webinar that I've ever taken. So let me give you an example of what I did. One way I decided to integrate more technology into my curriculum was by flipping my classroom. I used a website that I created in Google Sites to teach the students about what we're learning that next class. I taught them about choreography, modern dance, and I even gave them examples on the Arts Alive website, which is a virtual simulation of how to do modern dances. I was very happy with the results, and I'm really pleased at how I was integrating new technology within my own course. Another resource that I learned from this class was webinars. I've never been exposed to a webinar before this class, and since then I've taken several. I could see it being a very useful tool in the future for many teachers due to the fact that it could reach a wide variety of people and an entire audience that's normally not typically able to go to a lot of professional developments. Webinars was a very useful tool and a resource that I've learned to really enjoy. The third class I took was Web Development for Educational Use. Now, web design for educational use taught me a lot about what to look for in a website. you need to know your audience is one of the first key things I've learned. Keeping all the pertinent information above the fold is another thing. Make sure your use of color is proper for the age group or who you're using it for. Fair share use, and even how to enhance your own photographs. Now, what I'd like to share with you was my own personal website that I developed for my teachers, my staff, and my students. This resource, making this website, has been very influential on how I teach. I use it as a key place to keep all of my information, to share information, and for instructional purposes. By building this website, I've realized that I could use it for more than just one application, and it's something I'll continually use throughout my educational career. The next class I took was EDTC 604 Advanced Web Development. Now, originally when I started this class, I wanted to learn mostly about HTML coding and CSS for more instructional purposes of how to code and write web design, which I did learn through two very important resources. Team Treehouse and Code Academy taught me the basics of HTML and CSS coding. The two LMS systems allowed you to learn HTML and CSS coding through little mini lessons. At the end of the lessons, you are asked to take a practical quiz. If you pass this quiz, you would earn badges and trophies. I really enjoyed this method. I felt the badge system was really neat because at this point, I wanted to really try to get all those badges I possibly could to pass every single test. This is my own self-intrinsic reward for passing every sort of test that I needed to pass the HTML coding and the CSS coding. In this class, I was able to explore Google a little more than I ever knew it before. There's a lot of great collaborative tools that we're able to use, such as Google Documents. We were able to share documents with one another, make peer reviews, and edit other people's work. We were also able to do Google Hangouts. Many of my peers and I were able to hang out late at night, share information with one another through a virtual world. This was impressive to me. My learning artifact was built through Inklewriter. It's a Web 2.0 tool, primarily used for writing. I use it to build a jump rope routine. Now, my students usually have a difficult time to build a jump rope routine, putting jump rope skills in succession. I use it to build jump rope skills and give them an idea how to build it in succession and to have choices at the end. Now, this is a great tool, and because of advanced web development, I was able to build this tool. My students have had much more success because of this tool. This project was well worth the time and effort I put into it. I was halfway through my master's, then I took EDTC 605 Multimedia. I really enjoyed multimedia. This class gave a lot of practical hands-on applications. I used a lot of open source software, video resources, audio resources, accessibility tools, you name it was in this class. We did a lot of research as well on the Creative Commons and the Universal Design. Now, in this class, for my artifact, I chose to use my Prezi. This was the first Prezi I did, but I was really happy with the outcome, and I hope you like it. Within this Prezi, I decided to add a culmination of all the research that I did from this course. I used a flipped classroom model, I used a blended learning model, and I even used cell phone technology as an application in education. Now within this artifact, I also placed original photos, added text, music, video content, and I even used an online quiz for my students with the help of Blubber.com. The tool was meant to educate through multiple means of media sources, and ideally, this would be for a flipped classroom or to learn outside of my class. Now with all the research that I did, I unfortunately have not been able to use this amazing tool yet. I look forward to using it within this school year just to try it out on my students to see how they like it. Now I had a big aha moment in this class. It was using Dippity.com. I started to shift my thinking from not only as a teacher, but as an instructional technology leader. We used a timeline creator which allowed a timestamp, and you could add video, audio, and text links. Now, I was thinking instead of using just a timeline, couldn't this tool be used in other classroom projects, like as a syllabus or even as a daily journal? I started to think more about what some of these tools that we use could be applied for in other areas. I was looking forward to my next class, which ended up being my first elective here at Regis, MALC 629, Interpersonal Communication. So this class was held in the traditional classroom setting. It was a little strange going back to this after being a distant learner for so long, but I could say I got a few aha moments out of this class as well. MALC 629 was a little different than the rest of the technology classes that I've had here through Regis, but because of this class I feel I'm a better professional and a better person because of it. I chose 2 research artifacts for this class, one on gender and communication, the other one on communication within the educational system. After these 2 research projects that I did, I realized it's a very difficult and dynamic process to communicate. It's always changing and constantly shifting based on where you are, what we're doing, what we're even talking about. Now there's lots of specific details on how to go about communicating with one another, but the most effective way is by face-to-face. When technology is involved, Google Hangouts or even Skype is a much more effective way to communicate with someone else other than texting or using symbols to communicate with someone. However, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. This class also taught me specifics about APA formatting, which I was lacking prior to this class. I also learned a lot about how to use Word documents and Google Docs much better, a little more savvy than I ever was before because of this class. Virtual collaboration and communication was my next step in my journey for this master's program. This class packed a lot of information in it at one time. We learned a lot. We went through a lot of information such as blogs, wikis, AUPs, virtual manipulatives, gaming websites, and how they could all be used within educational purposes. Now, it was hard to pick one item that I would like to use as an artifact, but I could say I was really proud of one thing I did with my partner. Virtually, we used PictoChart to create our own digital citizenship poster. One of the most impactful parts of this class was the digital citizenship unit. Now, I worked with a partner to create and collaborate on how to build a digital citizenship poster. We stayed up at night and worked through Skype, communicating and collaborating by researching through Common Sense Media to come up with our own digital citizenship poster for our elementary students. We used PictoChart to create a poster with. We liked how it allowed us to manipulate images, change text, and the colors. We both have used this poster in our own classrooms. We're very happy with the final product that we've had from this class. Another assignment I really liked in this class was working with Bloom's Taxonomy and Robert Marzano and putting them together to create our own TPAC lesson plans. By doing this, I felt that I was able to design some amazing lesson plans, and I'm very much looking forward to putting them into my own practice. Moving along in the Instructional Technology program was EDTC 602, Instructional Design. Now what was great about this class was we started with the end product in mind, and then we worked our way back from the very beginning, starting with the context map, a theory of action, and even assessments for and of learning. Now, what was really great about this was it was very relevant with what I was doing at the time. I started a new position in Denver Public Schools. I moved to a new school and was a PE teacher and a technology specialist, so a lot of this was very relevant to me during this class. I had a great aha moment in this class. It was when I spoke with Dr. Kevin Pyatt, my professor. He mentioned to me that I'm the teacher and I know my students better than anyone else. So when you write your lesson using the TPAC framework, write it with them in mind. So I used this, took it to heart, and created a brand new lesson strictly for my students. My second to last class was EDTC 606, Multimedia 2. Now, Multimedia 2 wasn't an elective for me, but it was a very powerful elective to take. I learned about using multimedia tools within education and how wonderful they could be to help educate our students. I learned about podcasting, animation, storyboarding, video games, and even screencasting. Here's a few examples of what I've done within this multimedia class for my Regis portfolio. Now, this is a screenshot of a project that I did on Puppet Pals 2. Puppet Pals 2 is for the iPad, which we have a lot of iPads within the educational system. Now, this allows students to create original works. It also lets them communicate information and ideas effectively. The only problem I had with this program was my 4-year-old daughter kept taking the iPad from me and wanted to create her own little Puppet Pal movie. So be wary of this when looking to use Puppet Pals. In this project, I used a free open source software called Google SketchUp. Its 3D animation allows the user to create original works as a means of personal or even group expression, which would be amazing to see my students use this project within their own classrooms. Lastly, I wanted to share a screencast that I did for the class. Now, screencasts will be great in the educational system. You could use it to instruct, teach how-tos, or even just share information with one another. I feel that screencasting is a great tool to use within education. And this leads us to the final class, EDTC 610, the Capstone. The Regis Capstone class was mostly about reflection. I was able to reflect back throughout my tenure here at Regis, looking back at every single class, all my projects, and all the research that I've done for every single class. It's amazing the amount of work I got accomplished. I realize now that the instructional technologist wears lots of hats in their building. I've also come to the realization that some of my peers have been very influential to me. Reflecting back over the courses, I could say my peers influenced me greatly throughout this entire program. We all came from very different backgrounds, but we all got together for our love of technology. You are all leaders in your field. Your work has influenced me, as I hope my work has influenced you. I look forward to working with you all in the near future. Well, that wraps up my Regis Instructional Technology Capstone reflection. Thank you all for watching, and best of luck to you all.